Hey guys, welcome back to another Friday Fireside chat. Now today, I have an excellent TED Talk to share with you guys. And it's entitled Dare to Rewire Your Brain for Self-Compassion by Weiyang. And this is from 2018. It's a bit of an older one, but it's quite popular. Very nice. As always, you can find the link in the show notes. It's such a moving TED Talk. It's very transparent, it's very vulnerable and open and honest. And it's very relatable. And I think that so many people are struggling with this issue now. It's getting to be more of an issue because of the things that are happening within society, cultural shifts, the things that are valued within the mainstream, and the things that have been unfolding within the recent past. And so a lot of the times when people are unable to keep up with these expectations that come from the society that you're living in, or carrying weights from your childhood wounds, or failures, or things that you feel insecure about or uninformed about, the problem is that a lot of the times people aren't aware of the shame that hides or that really covers those beliefs, and subsequently the secondary emotions that often display, such as anger or sadness, covering shame. And sometimes even a third layer, for example, if you really feel shame, and then you feel sad because of the shame, and then you feel anger because you feel sadness and shame. So, things can get quite complicated, and it really requires that self-inquiry to go down to the deepest level, to keep asking yourself that question, why, and why, and why does that matter, and why does that matter? It's a method I heard from the Paul Colliani. I forget the name of his podcast, but he would always do these drill down type questions. If, for example, I don't know, you would say, "Oh, my friend doesn't want to talk to me," or "Go with me to the party this Friday." And then the person who is doing the analysis, or you could do it to yourself, and you could say, well, why does that matter? And because if he doesn't, the person could reply, if he doesn't come with me, then I have to go alone. And then the next person, or the analyst, or you ask yourself, would say, and why does that matter? And well, if I have to go by myself, then people would think that I'm alone and I don't have any company or friends. And then the analyst, or you ask yourself, why does that matter? If they don't think I have friends, then they don't want to talk to me. And why does that matter? And just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until you get down and to the real point. And the idea is that once you go down far enough, you're going to get to some of the more deeper wounds or concerns or insecurities or fears that you're hiding, or perhaps just unaware of or unconscious. And so it's a really great way to set up a line of questioning, to do self-inquiry in this style. And it can help you uncover the sources of shame, because sometimes we're not aware of them. Sometimes we just have to dig deeper on our original or initial reactions and behaviors that we're displaying, and look deeper to see what that says about the beliefs that we're living with and operating under. As part of taking self-accountability. We always have an option. Yes, we may feel shame and those self-deprecating emotions, self-doubt or insecurity or fear, those lower vibration emotions, which means that we are out of alignment. Those are not our true selves. We have to remind ourselves of that. Stepping back into that observer self, taking some distance, observing the emotions, not becoming them, because becoming them is what creates and deepens the emotional imprint, the neural pathway that keeps us stuck in that reality and in this vibration. And that's what causes us to repeat the same patterns. So it's funny how they say, you have to face the fire, face the fear, face the shame. And on the other side, you find release. You guys know the Chinese finger trap, right? So you have your finger, two fingers, and they're connected with I don't know how you describe that, like a cylinder type of fabric or paper thing. And you're trying to pull your fingers away, and that only makes it more tense. and you get more stuck by trying to pull your fingers away from each other. But actually, if you relax and push your finger in towards each other, then the trap loosens. And so this is really an important metaphor for life as well. Relaxing into things as opposed to intensely obsessing on what might go wrong, that catastrophizing that fear, because it keeps you in the negative vibration, which continues to attract the negative things to you, those experiences. And what we want is reparative experiences that give us the opposite. And in order to have those experiences, we have to be open. And in order to be open, our hearts, our minds, our spirit, we have to reduce the shame, because shame keeps us closed up. So without going into more detail, I'm going to go ahead and start off the TED Talk, and we'll discuss more after. Enjoy.
I'm a psychologist working in college counseling. I work with clients with mental health issues. So in that sense, I'm considered a mental health expert by many. However, when I first came to the US as an international student 10 years ago, I was facing my own self-doubt and various adjustment issues. I wasn't ready to face all different norms and rules and expectations. I felt lost. My confidence was shaken. I was struggling with anxiety issues. These issues were carried over to my professional life. I remember my negative voice was so loud at the time. It sounded like this. You're not competent. You're going to screw this up. Your clients are going to hate you. You better quit now. I remember the first client I saw was someone with anxiety issues. Ironically enough, I was sitting in my therapist's chair, feeling overwhelmed by my own anxiety. My face was as red as a tomato can go. My heart was pumping fast. My hands were sweaty. I was this close to running away from that therapist's chair and from my own anxiety. And the only reason I didn't do it, honestly, was because I knew I would get busted by my training supervisor who was watching me in the next room. I felt I was trapped in my anxiety. I could not reach my potential. I wanted to know how this has happened. I started to look closely into it. I found, interestingly, it is something that actually many of us share. A universal and common human condition. The predominant component of it is shame. The negative self-perception and self-criticism we bring onto ourselves with or without self-awareness. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to have that. I'm less of who I want to be. I'm not likable. I'm gonna die alone. I'm stupid and dumb. You see, shame is more than just the self-criticism. Shame is the underlying drive to it and the root to many emotions we experience. Fear, sadness, frustration, anger, jealousy. Shame is also the underlying drive to many emotional and behavior problems we experience. Low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, suicide thoughts, addiction, violence, and racism. Shame is different from guilt. Well, guilt is how we feel about what we do. For example, I have done something wrong. Shame is how we feel about ourselves. I'm stupid, I'm dumb. Well, guilt can sometimes drive us to do the right things. Shame is almost always self-destructive and debilitating. In fact, shame has now become such an epidemic in our lives. Many of us are probably familiar with this voice, not enough, right? See some of you nodding here. We constantly beat ourselves up for not being smart enough, not doing enough, not making enough contributions to our friends, our team, and our community. When we finally make it to all of these goals, if we really can, we start to struggle with not taking care of ourselves enough, not attending to our relationships and families. It seems wherever we go, we are followed by this voice. We listen to it. We constantly feel the need to do more and more, better and better. Where's the end? In this process, we get stressed out and overwhelmed. When neurobiological psychologists dig into this underlying mechanism of this phenomenon, they found shame and self-criticism can reduce our prefrontal cortex's capacity to sustain attention and inhibit our impulsive behaviors. The impact of this is very similar to the effect of sleep deprivation. Imagine how you would be feeling if you are sleep deprived. Some of us are probably familiar with that right now, right? The neurobiological pathway resulting from a shaming environment can further create a mental model predisposing us to perceive this world with despair and anxiety, and therefore leading to various mental health issues. So, if you want to debilitate yourself, just shame yourself. If you want to debilitate others, just shame them. Now, imagine my eagerness to get out of my shame after I realized what it had been doing to my life. I embarked on this journey of de-shaming in the past 10 years. I tried various tactics to get rid of my shame. I hid it from others. I pretended it didn't exist. I played along avoiding triggers. Well, none of this worked, as you can imagine. And then I beat myself up for not being able to beat my shame, and it turned out to be this perfect cycle of self-blaming and shaming. Sounds a little familiar, right? So, how has shame become such a persistent and prevalent issue in our life? It's time for us to look at our brain and understand how our self-talk is formed. Every thinking pattern can be associated with a certain neural pathway. Neurons that fire together wire together. Think of your brain as a giant electric network made of millions of electric circuits. Every time a thought passes, it lights up a certain neural pathway. The more you think this way, the more strengthened this neural pathway becomes. Gradually, it becomes a habitual way of thinking, regardless of whether or not the thought itself is rational. So if you say, "I'm so stupid," you inadvertently light up a neural pathway that reinforces a shaming pattern. And this neural pathway will likely be lightened up again next time when you are in a similar situation. I did again. I must be stupid. Soon enough, you will start to speak a shaming language very fluently or even on autopilot. Psychologists call this automatic thoughts. So you will start to live in a shaming world filled with emotional distress and negativity. Sounds very depressing, right? So how can we save ourselves from such destiny? Good news about our human brain is its plasticity, meaning neurons can rewire, neural pathways can be reconstructed. So let's say, if you tell yourself, "I'm stupid, my boss hit me, I'm a loser," pay closer attention to what you tell yourself and put intentional effort into challenging this shaming pattern. start compassionate self-talk, you will start to generate new neuron connections and neural pathways. Oh, this has been hard on me. It is difficult not be able to understood by others. I feel invalidated. I feel hurt. The more you engage in this thinking pattern, the stronger the new neural connections will become. Gradually, the old neural connections will fade away, and you will start to speak compassionate self-talk to replace the old habitual way of thinking. Research has revealed being compassionate to yourself can increase your emotional resilience and your psychological well-being. Here's how this works. People who are more compassionate to themselves are better at coping with negative emotions and less likely to ruminate on their negative thoughts, and therefore having a lower level of depression and anxiety. Being compassionate to yourself can also reduce your stress hormone cortisol and increase your heart rate variability, which indicates people are more relaxed, calmer, and safer. They're more open and flexible to respond to changes in their life. So you must be wondering right now, how can I practice this compassionate self-talk? Okay, here's the start. Are you ready? Okay. Let's say goodbye to all the old grammar. I am negative. I'm not enough. I don't deserve this. I'm less of who I want to be. I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I can go on and on, but you have heard me say enough of that this afternoon. Keep a mental journal throughout your day and count how many of those sentences you actually say to yourself. You would be surprised. Start to challenge those automatic thoughts. Am I 100% sure those thoughts are true, or am I just saying this out of habit? If you're not 100% sure, if only 1% doubt, question them. Don't let them pass. Stop being harsh on yourself. I can't do this. I shouldn't have done that. You mean well. You mean to motivate yourself. However, this tone can only impact your self-esteem negatively. So how about we try a different set of tone? I will. I would like. I hope. I would like to do this. It still gets job done, but imagine how you feel differently. Let's practice compassionate acceptance of being imperfect and therefore being human. It's inevitable to make mistakes and reach our limits. Having flaws simply means you're normal, right? Right? Here's where you're supposed to say yes, even you don't think it applies to you personally. So I have a confession to make. I was pretty stressed out and anxious at one point when I was preparing for this talk. You know those what ifs, not enough voice. What if you forget what you're going to say? What if you drag this too long, they have to kick you on stage? In a kind way. So I keep doing more and more. I want this to be better and better. I want this to be perfect. And then, wait a moment. You are giving a talk about being imperfect while you are striving for being perfect? How's that going to work? Of course you're stressed out. So I asked myself, okay, then what can I do then? I start to backpedal in my thought. Okay, not too late yet. Scratch what I said, scratch those what ifs. Imagine there's a neural pathway that actually get unwired here. There's a new one coming here. What can my compassionate brain tell me? It is okay. You will make mistakes. Expect it and be okay. You will feel emotions because you're human. You don't want to be a robot. Well, I actually felt more relieved. Still a little bit nervous, but more relieved after giving myself this break. And probably saved myself from a potential panic attack. Let's cultivate an open and curious mindset instead of closed and judgmental mindset. How many times have you heard yourself saying this? What's wrong with me? I can't get this right. How about we try this? I wonder why I'm having this challenge right now. This is an interesting puzzle to be solved. If you have trouble accessing your compassionate self-talk, here's a trick to it. Ask yourself, what would you say to your family or your friend or who you care about when you see them suffering or struggling? Give the loving kindness you gave to them, to yourself. We certainly don't need double standard in our relationship, right? So this is a shortcut to access your compassionate neural pathway. This is a process that takes ongoing practice and repetition. This is like learning a new language. To many of us, we wouldn't know how to speak a new language just by simply acknowledging it exists, right? We need ongoing practice. So let's start to pay attention to what you tell yourself, because whatever you are saying to yourself, you are listening. Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this outstanding TED Talk. I hope that it helped you to recenter and gain some perspective on how you talk to yourself. I love how she ended it. Be careful what you say because you're always listening. We can literally talk to our bodies. We can talk to our bodies to go towards health or towards a disease. Some people talk to their plants, and there are some studies, if you talk to their plants, this is all also part of the bioenergetics, because it's not just humans. We're all energetic beings connected to each other. I was watching a documentary yesterday about mushrooms. Are mushrooms conscious? And they were saying that maybe mushrooms were the gateway that propelled human development and raising our consciousness because of the way mushrooms work in the forest. For example, if you go to the Amazon, they have mushrooms that are located between various trees, for example. And because of the root systems of the trees and the mushrooms have an awareness of history, what has happened in the past. They have an awareness of communication from other beings. They are able to respond to the needs of other organisms, such as the tree. They're able to move or tell other chemicals, not within themselves, but organically, to initiate certain processes to fulfill the needs of the tree and so forth. So this is like an example of a conscious being responding to the needs and states of something else by some kind of connective force, right? So this is like a bit of a detour. Sorry there, I got carried away. But the idea is that, we are all much more connected than you realize, not just human beings, but all living life forms. We don't understand yet how the world works, and we shouldn't be afraid to try these more esoteric, or, some might consider these things woo-woo, but, what's really funny is most of the things that people consider, out there or woo-woo or something, eventually quantum physics has proved or is proving these things correct. For example, things about vibration. They had this knowledge way back in like the 1500s, but only now in the 20th century has quantum physics began to uncover the links, that relate to how this actually works, the mechanics of this, And so there are many spiritual, religious things that are now being described from a quantum physics level. And this should give us hope, because we realize that, we don't have to function from the understanding that everything that we can see is the complete definition of what is, because it's definitely not. And that relates to shame, because shame is just a projection of some faulty belief that we've internalized, some faulty judgment from someone else that we've perhaps, first of all, might even misinterpreted from the beginning, or misattributed to ourselves because of a lack of understanding. So it's not anything that's related to our true nature. It's a projection and a misunderstanding. And it's funny how, as she said at the end, you have to be careful how you talk to yourself because you're always listening. Your body is listening. We're talking to our own bodies. Our voice carry that vibration. They're how we transmit our beliefs into ourselves, the words that we say to ourselves, the mantras, the thoughts that we have. That's why it's so important to get a handle or at least awareness of that inner critic, because it's all faulty negative programming. It's all faulty negative programming. You are naturally joyous and abundant and free and loving. That's your nature. Shame puts a restriction on that. It closes you down. It limits your life force. It depletes you. It makes you retreat, withdraw, shut down, to stay quiet and visible. It keeps you disconnected from the energetic exchange of life, which is why shame leads to isolation. Isolation leads to withering. It's kind of like the decaying of the life force, of the will, of the spirit. And that's why it's so important to ensure that you're facing and aware of the shame and how it's limiting your life. This TED Talk reminded us of the importance of being on our own side, as we listened to a few weeks ago from Dr. Aziz, the continuous stream of how we talk to ourselves. If we relate this back to some of the teachings from Brian Withers, we're understanding that our negative vibration comes from those negative beliefs and stories that we're telling ourselves, which comes from a negative perception, which is rooted in shame. All of these things are coming together, and we're painting a picture on how those beliefs impact us physically, behaviorally, biologically, and how we can begin taking control of the situation, or we can exercising some influence over it and get ourselves headed in the right direction. This month has been about self-compassion and self-kindness. And if you're not aware of the negative stories you're telling yourself, you won't be able to change them. As Carl Jung said, with the conscious, how does that quote go? Whenever the conscious, until the unconscious remains conscious, you will repeat it and call it fate. So until the unconscious becomes conscious, you will repeat it and call it fate. So it's such an important process. This sometimes referred to as shadow work, inner child work, self-acceptance work, self-esteem work, grounding, somatic grounding in who you are, not just the knowledge, but it has to be embodied. And that embodiment comes through experiences and emotional intensity and repetition. Performing, acting, behaving as a new character in the world, who you want to be, embodying that person. The world is a stage, as Shakespeare said. That doesn't mean that you're away from your authenticity, but you are performing yourself. As Robert Moore, the Jungian analyst, said, there's a point in life to play and display. The point of life is an energetic exchange where we naturally realize our own values and gifts that we share with others as an energetic exchange, and then they're returning energy to us because of their gratitude for our energetic exchange. This is the natural flow of healthy life, healthy coexistence. Even inner existence within ourselves. This is what it means to put an end to the war within yourself. To be grounded, to be centered. The shame is what keeps you at war with yourself. Accept that everyone has shame, everyone has failures, everyone has limitations, everyone has doubts, insecurities, and fears. But the only thing you have to fear is fear itself, because your perceptions and your beliefs are the only things that are blocking you and creating your limitations. You have so much more capacity and potential than you realize. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll be able to free yourself from this prison. And once you've done that, you'll be able to inspire others to do the same, and so on exponentially. As opposed to projecting our shame, how about we just all metabolize, process it, and realize together that we're all the same, that we all have value, that we can lift each other up, and opposed to tearing each other down. Now, that's taking this to the next step, because first and foremost, we have to do that process with ourselves. Only then can we begin to serve the community. But this is where we're heading. This is why it matters so much. It's not just your life. It's the life of everyone else that you touch as a response or as consequence of the work that you are doing. Your impact is so much larger than you realize. It's so funny how we are everything and nothing all at the same time. We are everything because we are an expression of God, a unique expression of God, infinitely powerful, with purpose and joy and function and utility and value. And yet again, at the same time, we are nothing more than a dot of sand on the beach who will be forgotten within a generation or two after our death. So there's no need to hold on to shame, to limit yourself. You're here to live in joyous expansion, and shame is simply a cage preventing your wings from spreading. So I hope you take some time to listen to this TED Talk again. If you ever need some encouragement or a reminder of who you are and why this matters and why you matter, then come back to this episode in this TED Talk. As always, thanks for being here. Take care of yourself. Please do be well. Have fun this weekend, as always. It's the most important thing, is to have fun. And it's so much easier to have fun when you're not drowning in shame. Maybe a good exercise to do is just to start making fun of yourself when you're feeling shame. You know? Just have fun and laugh. Joke about it. Again, that's not saying to spiritually bypass or comically bypass, however you want to say it, over the pain, acknowledge it, but then realize and recognize the duality of life. You can respond. You can choose how you respond. You can choose whether you laugh at this and see it as a challenge to triumph, the process of reparenting, for example, or if you see it and view yourself as a perpetually wounded victim who is behind. You have the choice to view it as a game. Your life is an art of your perception. And so have fun. That's the most important thing that you can do, is to have fun and to find your joy. Because that is why we're here, to experience a life of joyous expansion. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.